Hello, and thank you for all your kind comments on the conversation so far. Today, my guest is an actor, musician, singer, comedian, director, producer, former chairman of the council, and you possibly might even find him open water swimming in Carlingford Lough. But like so many, he got his first big break on the town hall stage in the Newry Feis. Charlie Smyth.
Well, it was the first time I was on the stage, and it was the conductor, believe it or not, was she was Kathleen McCoy, and she was Kathleen Donnelly, that I knew her maiden name, and we sang a song, something about a buttermilk cow, and and won the award, and we ran the whole way up from the town hall to show them the cup. So that was the first time I appeared on the town hall stage. I suppose I cut my teeth at the choir that particular day.
It's amazing how many families are associated with the town hall, and I didn't realize it until there was a book came out called Irish Dancing: The Festival Story by a lady called Angelina King, and
Yes,
it looks at festivals throughout Ireland, but it has a chapter on the Newry Festival, which opened in 1928. And I was reading through it and flicking through it as you do, and I came across a section that said the top four intermediate step dancers in 1928 were Tom Farley's sister Eileen Farley, Tweenie Coughlin, Bertie McConaughey, and Arthur Burns. I didn't realize my daddy had been on stage in the Fish as an Irish dancer with Arthur Burns.
I didn't know that your father and I was involved in the dancing as such. 1928, as you say, the Feis, it was founded by uh, Laurie Hodges' grandfather, and it has been a big boost to Newry down to the years. A lot of people more or less learned how to get on the stage and show their talents. And I was fortunate at being one of them with elocution and singing and even doing excerpts from different plays.
Was there music in the family when you were growing up?
Well, there was music. There would have been music in the when the fest started. People were taking part in it, especially the choirs coming from different schools in the town. And some of the people that you would have known in later years, they took part in the fest. The like of Ethel Fitzpatrick and people like that. They give so much in the town to promote and bring in youngsters to show off their talents. The face was a real. Well, there's no doubt about it that when it ran so many years, still going strong.
I remember Ethel. Ethel was my first elocution teacher, as they called it then. And it was the back on the mall. She took her classes in the back of the mall, and I think I was on stage with the fish at about 4 or 5 as well.
I remember singing boys in the boys soprano, but that was about 1940. I would say about 47, and believe it or not, I was fortunate enough to win singing a song called "The Merry Peasant," and it was beautiful.
I'm
Oh,
sure it was.
but I'm sure you wouldn't want to hear it now. Put you off
Yes,
your tea.
the first time I saw you on stage, Charlie, was in Oklahoma, and I think it was on in the Parochial Hall in 1973.
Yes,
So you were playing Ali Hackham,
Ali
and
had.
you brought the house down when you come on. It
Well,
was a fantastic
uh,
performance. And looking at the program from later years, I see you went on down to Waterford. And funny you mentioned Ethel Fitzpatrick, Maureen Devlin, Wesley Livingstone, and Charlie Smith in 1973 won certificates in Oklahoma in Waterford.
it was a time that the music society were going. They were a real young society at that particular time, and the talent in it was very good, and all were there, spent their own money and going down and staying. And you were there yourself in the latter years, But certainly Waterford was a wonderful experience because you were playing to, and it was an international festival, and you were playing to a strange audience, and you had to prove yourself.
In those years between when you were on stage with St. Joseph's Choir in the primary school, and then in 1973, when I saw you in Oklahoma, how did you learn your craft? How did you learn all that comic timing that you have, all that ability just to use your body to bring a part to life?
It's very hard for me to tell because it must have just come to me. I didn't especially go for anything like that. I got the opportunity of getting into some smaller place. Like Sean Jonathan was, he was putting on a small one act for juniors, and I remember playing, believe it or not, Fagin in the play Oliver Twist, and it really it did quite well at the Feis, and it gave you a taste of what it was like. I was fortunate to have met people who were keen to, and actually would show you, because you were playing with them and you had to be up to a certain standard to get it apart over, you know. And I like the comedy end.
You and Sean did quite a few double acts as well through the years, Sean Canavan.
Yes. Sean Shanahan was a wonderful man, both from as an actor and a director as such, but especially at the scenery. And he had a good idea of the different gimmicks as such. And both of us bounced off one another. I suppose in a way we had what they call a deadpan faces. I used to say, to make people laugh, your job is when you go on is to make the audience laugh, not for you to be laughing. I told you that too many a time in a lot of years when you were facing the stage.
In not so many words, But and I also remember Charlie's Angels out in Drummondtine. When the town was dark, you brought light to Drummondtine. And I remember as a young fella, coming out, we just lived on the edge of the town, and driving out through the darkness, and suddenly the whole avenue up to Drummondtine was lit, and you got to the top and you went into the shows, and the place was heaving. It was sweltering in there, but those were brilliant shows.
Well, the variety shows, as I said, it gave credit, especially out in the Glen and Bar area. It gave the youngsters an opportunity of getting on the stage. But the Drummondtine, the atmosphere, as you say, of a packed houses, when you saw an audience sitting on the windowsill. And I always remember the story of, especially it was Jimmy and Eddie O'Hare, who lived in Demully, and you know the connection of the O'Hares.
I do.
But the hall was packed, and they were still coming, and I had to go out, and I said, would you mind, if possible, could you move your chairs up maybe about half a foot? We're trying to get the rest of the people in. And the Julie did it as you asked. And then in about another 15 minutes, you're ready again, saying, look, I'm terribly sorry, but there really is a big crowd really trying to get in. And I'm sure you'd all like to see everybody in. And would you mind moving it up another half a foot to get them in? And the Julie obliged. And then the next thing, Jimmy O'Hare says, if he asked us to move anymore, we'll be on the stage playing. But the Drummondtine at that particular, the times were very sad and in the Newry area, and people were glad to come out. They came out in their droves to the variety shows. I call them, the one at Christmas was like Christmas crackers, and on Easter parade, on Charlie's Angels, and it was remarkable the crack that we got entertaining packed houses, because you can't beat playing to a full house. as you should know when you were playing the game.
When did the show then morph into a pantomime and transfer into Newry?
Well, it was about 1978. I got a phone call from Paddy O'Hagan, who was the clerk of the Newry Council at the time, and he said, Charlie, look, times is very bad and doom and gloom in Newry. Would there be any possibility of you maybe putting on a show or something to bring a bit of light and smiles in the town? And I says, well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll do a pantomime. And that was the first pantomime in 1978, was with Cinderella, and I brought it into the town. And it was remarkable on the Saturday with the matinee. But I was in the town hall, and it must have been about 11:15 when it started to snow. And it snowed very, very heavy, with the result that the radio, Walter Lough was coming on the radio. People were ringing in, cancelling shows. And my problem was, I have all the cast coming in to open a matinee at 3:00, and as you know what that would be like. And I'll have to get word to Walter Lough to say that there's one show running, and that's the Newry pantomime. It'll be going at 3:00 in the town hall. Well, we went on anyway, and there was nobody in the hall because of the snow. The people couldn't get in, but it was remarkable that it gave me an opportunity of a great rehearsal and timing the show. Anyway, the snow, it snowed that day, and the next day it all went away. And things then, we were able to do a whole week's run of a pantomime. And that's how it started. And it ran there until roughly about over 40 years without a break.
That's amazing, isn't it? To look at 40 years of opportunity for a lot of young people and older people to get on the stage, to have some crack, to show off their talent, to develop their skills. And, you've given so much guidance to people. I talk to people and they talk about Charlie and the generosity of Charlie and the time Charlie would give to them and how he would guide them, maybe just take them aside and say, think about trying it this way or try it that way. You're very generous with your time when you come to producing the show.
Well, I never thought of it that way. My idea was the show has to be up to a good standard. You're in your own hometown in Newry, and the Newry people were always very, very generous and as regards with their applause, and I wanted you to be good. But there's nothing giving me a better crack than tiny tots, watching tiny tots, rehearsing, and then going on the stage and everything going wrong for them. And that was part of it. And for their grandparents and their mothers and their fathers, you're getting such a big kick out of it.
Charlie, if you look over those 40 years, do you have a favourite pantomime?
Every pantomime had a certain lift. You would imagine, as you used to say, you always started off with Cinderella as nearly your first pantomime. In point of fact, there was if you look at it, there's about 5 or 6 pantomimes that go around in a circle. On every pantomime, you'll have different characters playing parts. You'll have people who can get, all of a sudden, you'll see talent arriving. As I used to, Judy Cato said one time, that talent always comes to the top. And young people and even some of the older people, when they're playing to a packed house, they get that great lift when they hear the applause and they know that they've done well. And you know that the rehearsal has been worthwhile. So I did got a great kick out of the pantomimes.
And there's been changes through the years, and I suppose technology has brought changes as well in terms of lighting and special effects. But the story is still the same. You're still telling the same story. You still have, the same actors and the same audience. You just add a bit more sparkle to it all the time.
It's so different to see the Jack and the Beanstalk or the giant hammer in the top of the town hall, and to seeing the ugly sisters and people like that running down Hill Street or running into the credit union. They're able to identify it and able to identify first of all, they'll identify the Hill Street, but they'll identify the mall and they'll identify the canal court, and where you more or less brought in part of the town, which give the audience a great lift.
I remember the first time we filmed that sequence for Cinderella with the white horses coming in and sweeping around by the town hall. And I brought you the wee director chair and the wee director cap. Oh, you were chuffed then.
Oh, it's frozen. If you remember, it was a Sunday morning and it was taking your life. And I remember Adele McHugh or Adele Sheridan then, she was coming out of the town hall and you were filming it of her coming out to that entrance to go to the canal court and down the mall, but the cold up it to get it right, and then going into the canal court on the staircase was unbelievable, because it was ideal for a pantomime off that staircase, because there was the opening and there was a band playing, as you remember, upstairs, and it looked like a ballroom.
It did.
And then we had to do it with a slipper and throw the slipper down the stairs as such. And then you had to change. Cinderella had to change into her rags to get out of the town, not the town hall, the canal court, before 12 o'clock. Pantomime is so different from other shows. You have to overplay. I don't have to explain that to you now about overplaying.
What is it you wish? What is it, O master?
To play in a pantomime, I think anything the cast or even the chorus, I mean, they're coming back in their droves, wanting to get in, because they're enjoying, and that's the name of the game. Enjoy what you're doing in shows, and try and do your best to such. I mean, it's not the West End, but some of the talent that went on that stage and then later went on the West End proved themselves as such. But a lot of them cut their teeth in the pantomime on the town hall stage.
And those tiny tots you talk about, they came back as senior chorus, and then they came back as parents with their own tiny tots, and then came back as grandparents with their own tiny tots over 40 years.
Well, that's what I was meeting them, because they were saying, especially coming up to a tiny tot would hit you and say, you know that my granny knows you. Well, my mommy knows you. I says, no, it's not me. No, I got it wrong. It's my father. It's not me. But that's all part of enjoying it so much and being involved in it. And it was a pleasure. And I was always very grateful to the support that I got from the Newry and District, A, coming in to play in it, and then B, for the support you would have got from the general public.
Charlie, if you look at your time in the Musical Society, you've been involved with a lot of shows there. Is there a favorite show? Would it be fair to ask you, is there a favorite show that you've performed in the Musical Society down the years?
Well, there would have been all the shows that you were playing a comedy in it. I certainly liked the Hello Dolly and or the Desert Song, which won the International Festival Award in Waterford, and also, yeah, you always remember the first show I played in the Musical Society, believe it or not, was about 1951. Was The Maid of the Mountains. one I played. It was a late operetta.
Uh-huh.
Now it was something different, but again, it gave you a great taste of going from, say, a play to an operetta to a pantomime.
Well, listen, yeah, I'm just looking here at the 1976 was a Desert Song. As you said, won the international trophy. Producer was Ray Jeffrey, choreographer Ray Jeffrey, and best comedian that year in Waterford was one Charles Smyth.
Yes, it was a great honour to win as the best comedian.
Another show that won Waterford was The Fiddler on the Roof.
Yes.
Sam Russell played Tevier.
It will always be remembered because it was a wonderful show and still remembered in Waterford, The Fiddler on the Roof. Ray Jeffrey, when he directed it at the first rehearsal, explained the whole setup of the Jews on their religion and all the symbols, and we all enjoyed that because it was something new. But he explained it that well. He got them all involved, and everyone in the show was a principal.
That's right, because if I look at the program here for Fiddler on the Roof, the chorus that would have been in another show, just their ordinary names, everyone has a name, has a cast, a character name all the way through the whole of the perform, or for the whole of the ensemble. Everyone has a character name.
You see, it was a family, and Sam Russell was superb as Tevier. It was a great part, and Sam lived it. There's no doubt about that.
Well, listen, Charlie, it's been a tough old year for so many people in so many ways, and you know, been tough on people, and it's hard to sort of rank missing the theatre and missing shows compared to other people through the years. But it must have been tough this year for you with no Panto, you know, and because that for you begins in September and runs all the way through to the end of January.
Well, it's the people, and when I get the opportunity, I do want to thank all who were involved in the pantomime, not just this last few years, but down through those 40 years, who give up their time so readily off the stage, and especially even you were involved in it and on the stage, and you're also with the backstage and the lighting. But I mean, the people who were give so much, and I thank even the audiences who supported me on the pantomime down through the years. You get the enjoyment when you give, and as I said earlier on, when you were able to bring young people in, and I would hope that would continue, because there's nothing that beats a smile. A smile would bring you anywhere. It's like medicine.